Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain sweary words, and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage temps, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or you can join our group on Facebook at Beyond the Waves. Hail hail, and keep the faith.
See this thing happening to you. If I look hard enough into the setting sun, my love will laugh with me before the morning comes. I see a red door and I want it painted black. No colors anymore, I want them to turn black. I see the girls go by dressed in their summer clothes.
Welcome to the Beyond the Wave Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. And today we had a 2-0 victory over Motherwell. I thought at most of the points it was a sparkling performance. Bit of bad news, though. Adam Matthews, it looks like, has a fractured collarbone, and Neil Lennon mentioned in the press conference after the game that he may be out for 3 months. I think that's a bit optimistic if it is indeed fractured. Depends on, obviously, how badly fractured it is, how clean the break is, and what the treatment will be. And I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of prognosis and things like that. Obviously need scans, and that will confirm everything, but certainly going to be a huge miss not having him in there. And a shame, really, because it seemed as though, after being out of the side for much of last season, he was starting to get a regular place ahead of Lustig, not so much at right back, but in that right-sided midfield role, and seemed to be making it his own, giving us another element in attack, especially with the lack of a goal-scoring striker. But fingers crossed that it's not as bad as it appears at this point, but certainly does not look good. Landed on it very awkwardly, no question about it. But 2-0 victory today, 3 points, and obviously that's what we're looking for. We're back on the top of the table with the game in hand. Inverness Cali getting absolutely tonked today away in Perth, so that obviously puts us in the driver's seat at this point to push on in the league. But obviously much of our attention still remains on the game against Barcelona midweek, a bitter, very sore 1-0 defeat, which was really there for the taking. There's so many positives to take from it. We're going to talk to a few people today, hopefully going to have Dr. J joining us again on his regular feature, and hope to hear from Yampi today as well. He's certainly going through a rough time, as many of you know, but we hope to catch up with him at the bottom of the hour and maybe take his mind off of things for a bit, and hopefully also going to be joined by the boys up at the Philly CSC. They have a busy week coming up. Certainly the Danny O'Connor fight next weekend at the Electric Factory, I believe, in Philadelphia, fighting against Vivian Harris, who, I mean, that takes me back. I remember almost 10 years ago, probably more than 10 years ago, him fighting against Bernard Hopkins, and I believe he fought against Roy Jones. So he's certainly at the tail end of his career, but that's going to be a nice victory for Danny going in there. Fully confident that Danny can go in there and get the victory and move on and continue to add to his CV. He's had some fantastic interviews with the homeboys, so all the best to him. So, hopefully we can catch up with the boys from the Philly CSC. But in terms of today, a few questions that have really been lingering for me and for many people, let's be honest, throughout this year, has been, without the presence of a goal-scoring poaching striker, what are we going to do to compensate? How is Neil Lennon going to adapt his tactics and the strategy, the layout, the formations? Stokes can obviously, as he displayed today with a fantastic goal after just a shambolic display from the Motherwell keeper, putting the ball away from a very acute angle with his left foot. He obviously has exceptional technique in many circumstances. If he can apply himself just a bit more, work to get himself back on side, time his runs well, and there were several circumstances where James Forrest or one of our players would be just teaming down the flank. And Stokesy, you have two options. You can either follow him in there and try and support him, or get in the box and try and get on the end of a ball. And it seemed as though he was lingering just outside the box, 20 to 25 yards away from goal. And it's like, Stokesy, come on, man. You got to challenge the defenders. You got to make some runs, drag defenders around, open up space, get yourself on the end of some of the service. Some of the service today from Emilio Gary was fantastic, especially in the first half. So that's always the knock against him. Other than that, I don't think he had his best game. But Stokesy had another opportunity, just from point blank, and it almost went out for a throw-in. So I'm a big Stokesy fan. I'm definitely pulling for him. I'm hoping that he can get himself right and that he can develop into the striker that we need. But getting back to my original point, I think that what we saw today, a very narrow layout from Neil Lennon. You have Adam Matthews and Chris Commons coming in from the flanks, but obviously their tendency is to want to drift inward, and that's obviously going to congest things. And provide a handful for the opposing defenders, especially their center halves. I mean, Steve McManus looked like his head was spinning, throughout the entirety of the game today. The Motherwell defense, I have to say, was absolutely shockingly bad. The goal that Chris Commons stuck, I mean, just kept him by himself, and it looked like they were playing against a side that was, they just had lead in their boots. But fantastic finish, fantastic move from Chris Commons to set all that up. All the same, just exactly what you'd expect from Commons. But with this setup, with this, it appears like a stringent 4-4-2, but when you have Mulgrew and Brown in the midfield, sort of anchoring things, just setting up just in front of the center halves, it does tend to leave a lot of space on the flanks that we just weren't probing into. Obviously, Izagiri is going to do a much better job of that down the left-hand side, but it seemed as though Lustig wasn't as active down that right flank trying to get balls in. And if we're really going to have to depend on the fullbacks to provide that width, they're going to have to be active. Neil Lennon's asking a lot of questions of our fullbacks, considering many of our attacking players are so narrow. James Forrest gives us a bit more of, at least on paper, a bit more of that opportunity, for width. He's more of your traditional winger who can take on a man, take it down to the byline, and whip it in. But we just so seldomly do that anymore. It seemed as though when Forrest came in, he would drift more centrally. He had almost that free-floating role where you saw him on the left cutting through centrally, and it even seemed like, what my impression is, having Matthews and Commons and then eventually Forrest when he came on, start off wide, cutting in, it forces the strikers to push off wide to try and open up some space, stretch the defenders apart. And that's really going to put a lot of pressure on those attacking midfield players. Commons, Forrest, Matthews, hopefully he pulls through. The strikers are obviously going to want to be there to clean up things and so on and so forth. But we know from the attacking players, those goal-scoring players, the players that you rely on to bring these goals in, that we're having to replace with the lack of a Gary Hooper. It makes me nervous that if we can't keep their confidence up and we're relying so much on them, are the strikers going to be able to fill in? Are they going to be able to make those runs? To try and get themselves in the right positions to put the ball away. It remains to be seen. Obviously, this is a very cynical, very skeptical view, but I'd rather sort of analyze that, be aware of it, on the front end instead of, sort of whistling past the graveyard. We've had, a couple of, I think, sparkling performances as I described them before. The putting 5 goals past Kilmarnock. Obviously, Kilmarnock is one of the bottom sides. They're going to be fighting, maybe not fighting relegation. Hearts is definitely, taking that mantle on their own, full speed, and long may that last. But Kilmarnock is not going to bring us sort of the most fervent of challenges. Motherwell today, again, the defending was absolutely shambolic. So, it remains to be seen. Obviously, everybody's attention is going to go towards these next 2 games against Ajax. They're going to be absolutely massive. If we can take full points away from these 2 games, we are right back in it. Forget about qualifying for Europa League. We are right back in it in terms of challenging for this group and certainly getting that second place finish in the group that would get us to the knockout stages again. But we are now joined by Dr. J. Dr. J, are you in the car, or where are you located geographically just now?
You mean where's Waldo?
What exactly? What's your 20? At this point,
I am in Columbia, South Carolina, at my son's U13 soccer tournament.
Lovely.
Where the police are escorting adults, away from the field.
That seems reasonable. Was there? Give us some color, some background on this. Was it a dispute with the referee, or I mean,
of course. The guy obviously was dispatched from the SFA to come referee my son's team. Pathetic. I started singing out loud, fucking Hun with a whistle. He's nothing but a Hun with a whistle. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we live? I bet.
Fantastic. Well, listen, the Masons are everywhere, and they're certainly not lacking in the southeastern part of the United States. But nonetheless, did you have an opportunity to see the game today?
I did. I caught the second half. So I missed just after the second goal. I caught pretty much most of it after that. And there's still a component of the team that is not quite not quite the same as the Hooper Stokes type connection. There's still times when Stokes plays a ball or Pookie plays a ball or Commons plays a ball and they look at each other like, what the hell were you thinking? Have you noticed that? There's still, I mean, they didn't have, I mean, every once in a while there would be, obviously there's this, I'm not saying there's this telepathy type thing between Hooper and Stokes, but they kind of understood. And there was a couple times in goals where guy would spin before he even got to the other part. The guy, Stokes would be ripping it or Hooper would be, I mean, we're used to seeing that. And I still think that, that they're learning. They're learning how to cope without him. And I think that's a big thing. I really do.
You touched on an excellent point there, and I sarcastically brought this up, but before the game started, it seems as though Lennon has settled into a standard back four. He's had the same back four pretty consistently throughout the season, which is such a far cry from last season when it was just chop and change and there was never the same players. And that's so important. Getting back to your point about having these players play together so that they can develop, as you describe it, I think that's spot on. Telepathy, that sort of extrasensory communication. Stokes and Hooper absolutely had it. All those 1-2s, it seemed as though each of them knew what the other was going to do before they did it, and it facilitated build-up in ways sometimes that was absolutely breathtaking, and the results were always there. They both spurred each other on. They piled in goals, and when Stokes was out from suspension or injury, and it was just Hooper with Samaras, it didn't quite seem as though he was the same Hooper, and vis-a-vis Stokes, the same as well. But to your point, getting these players to play together consistently, so they can get more confident and more comfortable with who they're playing next to, I think is going to be absolutely vital, especially for, we saw Pookie today. I didn't think he had his best game, but nonetheless, it is early days. It's been, a little over a month since he's gotten here, and he really hasn't had an opportunity to partner up with Stokes up top, in a way that would facilitate that. That's sort of extrasensory perception, because you're right.
Graham, I would say that, I mean, listen, I'm not going to, I believe what I'm saying, but I'm not buying your point yet. And the reason being is because they train every day. And just because they don't do it on the field doesn't mean that they're not work. I mean, it takes time. And just because we haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. I just think that I think Lenny gets really, really pushed into, he has to find a place for Commons, and Commons right now is playing as a number 10, but we all know he's not fast enough to be a number 10.
No.
But he's
and I don't think Pookie is either.
Oh no, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not. He's a mirror for Stokes, and you said that earlier, and I didn't quite believe you, but the more I look at it, the more I see it, and I think that's the problem that he has. He needs that creative player, and it's not Ledley, and God knows it's not Mulgrew in the middle, so it's got to be Commons. And until we get someone else in there, he's stuck with Commons behind the striker, unless he's going to go an all out two up top with Commons in the middle. And that's the part where I'm assuming they have to be training. I'm going on a limb saying they're training on getting that partnership.
Yeah, I think that's going to be absolutely vital. That we didn't buy that instinctive, full of flair striker that just seems to create the bullets for himself to fire and be able to score, have a prolific goal scoring record. So we're going to have to make do with what we have. My point earlier was we saw Commons and Matthews, and then consequently Forrest after that, starting off wide and then cutting their runs in, forcing the strikers to have to splay out wide. And obviously, I think that's going to be an adjustment for Pookie. I don't think that's a role that he's really played in so much. We saw so often James Forrest would be wandering through that central channel, and it would be Stokes that would be wide, trying to create space. And I think that, that's something that Barcelona has done, in the past. And I'm not trying to say that Lenny is trying to copy Barcelona and make it our own, but, that is something that is unique. And I think that it tailors from the fact that we don't have a poacher, at this point. Getting back to your point from just a bit ago, you're right. They're in training every day with each other. They should be able to, come up with some sort of communication. If there's any sort of frustration on the front end, early days like this, I mean, I'm certainly willing to give them time. But there's on the flip side, there's absolutely nothing that can replace sort of a live fire scenario playing in a game. And I think that as time goes on, they get more games playing together. Fingers crossed. There is a player in there in Pookie. I was hoping that he'd have more pace than he does. It doesn't seem as though he has that burst of speed right off the ball that can get by a man. So he's going to really need to rely on sort of that back to goal, linking up things. And Stokes is going to need to run on and off of him. If not him, then it's going to have to be Commons.
Well, in all fairness, G, remember, I mean, Hooper, didn't break any Usain Bolt speed records either.
He did. I thought he had there's different types of speed.
Not to be sneaky fast. But his thing was he had enough upper body strength or the first touch to be able to put the ball in a place where he had the advantage.
Good point.
And I haven't seen Pookie in that position yet to be there, because I really don't think that he. I mean, listen, both of them spend more time in the games I've seen. I mean, outside the box than they do inside the box, and there's a big difference between Hooper and those two.
Well, Hooper, I mean, the pitch did not exist anywhere wider than the 20 yards on either side of the 18-yard box did not exist for Hooper. It did not come into play for him, and that's, in my opinion, what made him so effective. He would run that center channel, but he would. When he looked like he was into it, he would drag defenders around.
The only time I ever saw Hooper out there outside the box to the left or right of the goalkeeper was when he was hugging the ball boy after scoring a goal.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But
I mean, he's never out there.
But he would be adroit at making those runs to open up space, not just for himself, but also for other players to sort of run into. And it's
that's the player we need.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, moving on real quick. Let me ask you this: what did you think of Effie today? I was watching Celtic TV, and there's a lot of Effie's my man of the match. But I'm serious. I'm just telling you what I read on there, and I'm just looking at it going, man, I'll tell you what. I have this feeling that Virgil and can we please stop tweeting? Oh, we sold our spine, when in reality we bought, Van Dijk for half of what we paid for half of what we got from selling Wilson back, and I think he's twice the player as Wilson. And twice in half the time that he turned out to be. And I think that Forster is getting this, we'll use this telepathy thing one more time, with Van Dijk, but I don't know, man. I don't know who has the telepathy thing going on with Effie. Because, I mean, at the end of the game, Forster's screaming for the ball, and he tries to clear it out with an overhead kick, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
You're absolutely right. There were a couple of circumstances. One of them, he almost injured himself. Some nervous moments, because as we've talked about, there really isn't much covered center half. He fortunately seemed to be okay. But you're right. There's just a plethora of situations where the keeper, I would assume, is yelling for the ball, and FA just completely ignores it. The example. Effie deserves.
I'm a goalkeeper. My son's a goalkeeper, and I just look at it this way. If you're willing to stand there when the keeper's running at you with clenched fist and he has every right to be in the air and you get knocked down, well, then so be it.
Well, exactly. I mean, if the keeper,
especially your own keeper,
this as well as better than anybody. When the keeper yells for the ball, that's the clarion call for the central defenders to freeze. At that point, I mean, but not only that, I mean, you're bringing up the point about, him sort of standing his ground and following through with the play, but that is the type of thing that can create loose balls and can create opportunities for the opposing team, and that's not what we need. We need a lot more focus, and I think a lot more discipline. That's always the knock on FA, and I think that time after time, game after game, he doesn't give us much in the way of positivity going forward that this is going to be quelled. He does seem to be adventurous at times. With that being said, there were several situations today, where he made fantastic plays. I think that his pace and recovery is so useful, especially when, every time you see Neil Lennon on the touchline, he's yelling at the center halves, telling them to get up the park. We want to play such a high line, and we need that pace and recovery. One thing that, moving along, because we're focusing on the negative here, but Virgil van Dijk, you mentioned Twitter, and Twitter was absolutely ablaze, especially after the midweek game against Barcelona, and again today. Best signing of the summer, without a doubt, not even close. And what I was surprised with, not just on Tuesday, but especially today, several circumstances, he covers space exceptionally well for a big player. He has a much more pace than I thought he was going to have. And
the man floats.
Yeah,
he does. He floats. He has what I call inertia.
Yep.
You get all that movement, all that big body moving in one direction, and nothing's getting in his way, and he just it looks like he's floating.
It's similar to Sammy.
Running, unbelievable. Yeah. But did you see Pierre Van Hooydonk's tweet this week?
No, what did he say?
Ripping the Dutch FA.
What did he say?
He goes, excuse me, but I guess none of you watched the Barcelona game today, and how come Van Dijk's not your center half of the national team?
I'll tell you what, I don't think it's going to be long, because, obviously you're talking about one of the, certainly the top 15, if not the top 10 best international sides in the world, the Dutch. I mean, obviously, until they get into the tournament, in which case, the dressing room turns into the Royal Rumble. But that's beside the case. I think that he has every bit the quality to certainly be on the squad, and I don't think it's going to be long before he gets a starting nod. With that being said, Fraser Forster gets selected for the England side. Roy Hodgson was quick to point out that Joe Hart is still his number one. Joe Hart, in my opinion, has another calamity. Paper wrist this morning against Lukaku. I mean, obviously everybody's going to be analyzing everything that Joe Hart does from the Head & Shoulders commercials on down. Is it time that Fraser Forster gets a start in a meaningful game, not just a friendly? I mean, at this point, I think we'd take a friendly, but, I mean, is it time?
No, I don't think so. And this is the one time, and the one time I'll agree with Hodgson. He'll get, if Forster makes any mistake at all, even like breathing out when he shouldn't have been breathing in, Hodgson is going to get roasted. And right now, his safe play is to keep Hart. Do I think that he should? The answer is no. But I mean, they just need what, maybe 4 points out of the last two games to qualify. And I don't think Hart's the difference between qualifying and not. So I think he's going to stick with him. And then over the silly season of the fall and the winter, we're going to see see them play meaningless games and unfortunately, that's when I think he's going to get in, when the games are meaningless, and that's when I'm afraid of him playing when he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do I want to see him get it? Yes. Does that mean he'll stay longer if he gets it and stays there? Possibly. It means that he's going to be there longer than than Hooper was. But I mean, we're looking at our team being showcase teams. Yeah. And do I think he's a number one keeper right now? I mean, hell, that save he made in the second half on the header. That's top drawer, brother. I'm sorry.
World class. Yeah.
For a 6'7" guy to get down below his knee, left hand low like that.
Yep. Yeah.
That's just straight talent. That's not gravity pulling him down.
And I love what Neil Lennon has blind spots for players. Let's not kid ourselves. But I love what Neil Lennon says about Fraser Forster midweek when he's asked about some of the rumors of Barcelona looking at him and obviously answering questions about, Fraser getting the call up once again. And he, what he says, he's always Fraser Forster, now we're talking about, he's always one of the first players into training. He's always one of the last to leave. He's a student of the game. He works so hard with Stevie Woods, and that's exactly what you want to hear from a young player coming up, especially a player who's gotten so many plaudits. He just doesn't let up. It's very easy for younger players to get some of that notoriety and then say, all right, I've made it, I've arrived. Let's let's go down to cargo and get the bottle service. But he's so focused on continuously improving. Now, with that being said, let me ask you.
Hey, let me ask you. Do you think Hodgson's slow playing him on purpose?
Now, I think that Hodgson at this point is very aware of his public, how the public is going to perceive every decision that he makes. And let's be honest, it's probably one of the strongest microscopes that any international manager is going to be on. Look at the tabloids in England and how highly they rate their side, even though they're such shite. Every cycle, it's like, oh, this is going to be the one. We're going to make it to the quarterfinals. We're going to make the semifinals. And everybody knows that they don't have the quality, the talent, and especially the management, to be able to go up against some of the better sides with so much flair internationally. I mean, think about it. I could rail off 8 teams that would just take England out to the woodshed just now. But Roy Hodgson at this point is very cautious about how he's going to be perceived, not only from his decision making, but also what that's essentially going to do to Joe Hart. Let's not kid ourselves. Joe Hart, there's still a great goalkeeper in there, and if he just yanks him after a few bad games and just seems a bit flippant with it, that could really crush Joe Hart. I don't think that he wants to do that. Joe Hart's relatively young for a goalkeeper himself, so he's going to have a long and vibrant career. No question about it.
He's 6, but I think he's slow playing him. I really do. I think he's slow playing him to push him along instead of giving it to him and then, like you said, looking for the bottle service.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he's slow playing them, but then on the flip side, I think he has to. He can't bring him in now. I mean, not when you have the ability to go ahead and bring him in for meaningless games in the winter for the over the silly season after qualification's done.
Yep.
So
No
that's
question.
me. But anyway, hey, real quick, let me ask you one more question.
Okay.
What do you think was more important? And I was on a Twitter rant for 3.5 days over this.
I like a rant.
And I can't wait to see the chat for this one. Bruni's red card or Morgrew's miss?
Well, look, there were several things that had essentially led up to that. First off, I would say that Scott Brown let himself down. He let the team down. It was an incredibly stupid thing to do. Upon looking at the replays in slow motion, it was clear that there was an intent there to maybe take a swipe at him. That's something that he perhaps could have gotten away with in Scotland, but he's certainly never going to get away with it, especially in clear view of the referee against, one of the prized, let's not kid ourselves, one of the prized possessions of European football at the moment. Neymar is not going to get the same level of protection that he got in Brazil, but he's certainly still going to get a certain level of protection. Now, with that being said, I will say the referee did a fantastic job in the first half where Neymar was clearly diving. He spoke to him and said, look, you need to cut that out. He didn't give away a lot of those cheap fouls that Neymar is accustomed to getting in Brazil. I thought that was fantastic. I think it was harsh to give Scott Brown a straight red card, for that. I think that, listen, when you're talking about a red card, it's up to the referee's interpretation, and we're just going to have to live with that. Me personally, I don't think it necessarily merited a red card, but it was incredibly stupid for Scott Brown to do. Now, with that being said, we go down to 10 men, and I don't think that we looked especially harried or rushed or pressed at that moment, but I think that Barcelona at that point was just, to their credit, maintaining their patience, knowing that they're going to have a lot of possession, they're going to have lots of opportunities. They didn't get panicked or try and press either.
All he's got to do is look at the net and let the ball follow into the net, and we're up 1-0. Worst case scenario, they score, we get a point.
No, I listen. I thought it went in. I'm looking at the replay I'm watching it live on television on a big screen. I thought it went in. I got up. I started jumping. How he could possibly miss it? Listen, it's going to happen. We've been so good with set pieces, especially against Barcelona. Think back to last season, and
not this year though. Just saying.
No, it's true. It's true. In the first two European games, we have been off the mark. Listen, Charlie, he was gutted. You could see, it just in the interviews after the game, he was shattered, but by missing it. And I'm sure that, it's the type of thing that he's going to work on. He's going to, try and improve, but it happens, and the unfortunate part of it is, and I made this point before the game, is that the way that we beat Barcelona last year was set pieces and capitalizing on the once in a lifetime Halley's Comet mistake that somebody like Xavi's going to make. That's how we got 2 goals, and we're going to have to depend on that again. We had opportunities for set pieces. We couldn't put it away. Now, that opportunity, along with James Forrest's strike, were really our only chances. You can't say that we were wasteful. We just couldn't create the chances because we didn't have enough of the ball. And it's unfortunate when we do get those chances, we can't let them by, and that's what we did. And unfortunately, the effect was, we lost. We gave away 3 points.
And by the way, the goal. Speaking of rolling around, the referee stopping this. It's pathetic. So Barcelona scores off of a ball through the middle after someone takes the ball from Sammy, correct? Down around the goalkeeper, right around the 18-yard line. If you go back and watch the Celtic TV feed, whoever the right back was rolling on the ground, writhing in pain.
Danny Alves.
And then when they cleared the ball out, he stood up and ran away.
Right. It's Danny Alves. Yeah. Now, listen, I lost so much respect for Barcelona. I'll be honest. I've been in that mark out mosh pit of, Barcelona plays the right way, and, it's this idealistic style, and they have ethics, and it all went out the window.
I'll tell you
Danny Alves, and it wasn't just Neymar. It was Danny Alves was an absolute embarrassment. I thought that Busquets at times was, his usual self, very petty, very petulant. He deserved, in my opinion, to be sent off for the tackle that he put on Samaras not long after Scott Brown was sent off. But they're always going to get the
on Izzy.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, that's not what I can't stand them. I applaud them for being really good, and usually that's more of a Spain thing than Barcelona thing. I just can't when I watch a Clásico and I watch Real Madrid and Barcelona play, I have to literally take a Xanax to not scream at the TV to yell, "Get the fuck up, you fucking pussy!"
We were even remarking. I was watching the game. I was watching the game on Tuesday at Whitlow's, which is well, let's not kid ourselves. It's a meat market in Arlington Arlington, Virginia. And we first started watching the small TV at the bar, and they eventually put the big screen up, and it's like, once you get in front, I don't know what it is. You tell me. I mean, once you get in front of a bigger screen, it's like it gives you license to yell more and like louder and stand up. If we're watching like the tiny TV at the bar, it's like you just don't feel licensed to be so animated. But you get in front of a big screen, it's like, come on!
Yeah. Oh, trust me. Hey, by the way, Matthews.
Yeah, it looks like
Lenny said 8 weeks. Or, I'm sorry, he said 3 months.
Yeah, it looks like it might be a fractured collarbone, and that's going to be a huge miss. No question.
If a simple collarbone in from my experience of working with patients, 2 to 4 weeks if it's simple. If it's
listen, get your ass over there and straighten him out. You know what I mean?
I don't have to. I have a friend of mine who's actually, I don't know if you know this, but one of my best friends. One of my when I was in graduate school to become a chiropractor, my buddy is one of my students. One of my people under me is actually their chiropractor.
One of your minions is the chiropractor for Celtic.
Yeah. How do you think I get all the pictures with Lenny in that?
That is fantastic. Look at you. You don't even need the name drop because you're like the big daddy with it. I mean, seriously. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
You got your own. You got your own audio fanfare? I hear the secrets that you keep when you're talking to Baldeep. That's embarrassing. So, one last question, and then we're going to let you run. Dr. J, thank you so much for joining us again. Can we still qualify out of this group? And I'm not talking about Europa League. I mean, obviously, judging from Twitter, a lot of the expectations have dropped down a peg. In your mind, can we get out of this group and get into the last 16 of the Champions League?
Yes, I think so.
These next 2 games against Ajax are going to be absolutely crucial, though.
I think you got it. Well, I mean, if you compare last year's results to this year's results, as far as 2 losses, 3 wins, and a draw, I mean, that means you got to get something out of every game.
Yeah.
And you got to hope Barcelona just beats down AC Milan twice.
Yeah.
So. That being said, you got to remember what happened. I mean, it's possible. I think you can. I think Ajax is as I've watched on being. I think Ajax is definitely a team in transition.
Yeah, no question. They are not this high-powered, total football potent side that we. I mean, they're having enough trouble in the Eredivisie, let alone the Champions League.
So that would give you 2 wins. You get AC Milan at home. I mean. If I swear to you, if I ever see that motherfucker walking around, I'm just gonna lay down and just hope he steps on me so I can rip his ankle off. Balotelli, dear God, I can't stand him. And then you go back to last year. I mean, I hate saying this. We need Barcelona to win the rest of their games and then come out with a team that was led by Pinto, who really. Thank God he had. I don't know if you watched the last game between last year, Barcelona versus Benfica.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Dear God, I mean, if we were to use a hockey reference, and this is for the Rev, I mean, Pinto stood on his head. He made 7 million saves. Benfica must have had probably 55% of the ball and must have taken, I don't know, 16, 18 shots.
35 shots, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean. So going into the last game, and if they've already qualified, that's what we need.
Plus, Pinto has some sweet dreadlocks. I mean, Allen Iverson, he stands up and claps every time he sees him.
I would say he looks like that rapper from Ridiculousness called Riff Raff.
Oh yes, I love a bit of Riff Raff.
There you go.
Dr. J, thank you so much for calling in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and all the best at the U13s. May you be able to get out of there safely, and we'll catch up with you soon.
I'm on the Coast FA.
Thanks, pal.
Later, boys. Take care.
Oh, that's Dr. J getting in touch from the Palmetto State, and now we're joined by the president of the Eli Manning fan club. Let's hear it. He's got no hair. Yes, it's the Rev. Rev, how are you?
How you doing?
You're kilt shopping today. How are the legs? Are they? It's a nice, warm, beautiful day at least for you.
Ooh, it's nice and hot, 84 degrees.
Lovely.
Whatever that is, Celsius.
Lovely.
20, 25.
Flash those calves. Flash them.
You should be up here for.
I know I should be. And, with that being said, I do need to wrap up the show a little bit early today. It's my... oh, they're going to hook me up to a ventilator. It's my brother-in-law's engagement party today, so it's another excuse to get shit-faced. Let's not get ourselves. Rev, so apologies that I can't make it up, but I will get my measurements, and I will be kilted out for your nuptials. I will be there. I will stand in the band like a true Irish man. Did you have a chance to watch the game today?
No, unfortunately, I was on the road since 10 this morning, so
you're such a
that's
part-timer.
when kickoff was. I followed on Twitter, but I just wanted to hop on real quick. I saw you're on. I'm up at the Kearney CSC. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary today.
Excellent.
I know Chaz Duffy should be on his way down shortly,
Lovely.
hopefully.
Lovely. Friend of the
I
show.
don't know who else. Like, I walked in the door, and they're like, "Oh, are you the boys from New York?" I was like, "No, they're later."
No, I'm a Perth Amboy CSC.
Yeah. Come on, don't you know me? No, but I just wanted to say, come on and spread the good word, and congratulations to them. They're the first first CSC in the States. I think outside of Scotland, period. I'm not too sure. Huge presence, and obviously a long history here in the United States. Providing a place to come and support Celtic in northern New Jersey. Have you seen John Harkes today? And if so, have you kicked him? Have you towed him right in the balls, or No. But I'm with one of the people in my wedding party. He's a dual member at both the Kearney CSC and then the Scots American where the Huns meet. Oh. And I was asking him, like, "Oh, have you seen Harksey lately?" And he very politely is like, "Yeah, he's not really all that welcome. He's a friend of the club, but he's not all that welcome there either." So, but no, it's a good time. Having a lot of drinks at the bar. It's good win. Like I said, I didn't see the game, but 2-0. I'm happy with that.
Are you picking up around at least here or there? I mean, you're not going to embarrass the show, are you?
I try to, and some of the old fellas they're all just buying the entire bar of drinks.
No, you need to get in there, Rev.
I'm trying. Every time I'm up and I'm ready, I said who's ready for a drink, and they said we are, and we're buying. So it's a fight for who's buying drinks.
Listen, don't try and get free drinks off of your celebrity anymore. All right, stop it with this. Listen, everybody knows you, but that doesn't mean that you're exempt from buying around.
I'm trying.
You know what you need to do? Every time you get up and you're like, hold on. You get up and you're like, "Hey, who wants to drink?" And then you just got to fire this in. You know who's buying? Rev. He's got this round, Rev.
Nice.
Do it.
I'm about at that point. It's a sing song's gonna happen.
And
we're nice and tight.
Yeah, you got to get up and rep your song. This is audio fanfare for you, my friend.
It's gonna be tough tonight. I'm gonna have to see what happens because the festivities don't actually kick off till 7:00, and we are down the street, and I have a few people coming out to the Red Bulls game, but I might have to go late or leave the game early so I can come back here and participate.
Look at you. Well, please pass along, my best to obviously Chaz and everybody up there at the Kearney CSC. And if you see John Harkes, just give him a Vicky from
give him a boot.
Yeah, give him a Vicky from who.
Yep. Believe me, there's a few other people that want to do that as well. So you have to get in line.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, enjoy the rest of your day, my friend, and we'll catch up with you next week, probably.
Absolutely.
All right, fantastic stuff, pal.
Hail, hail, everybody.
Hail, hail. That's the Rev getting in touch from the Kearney CSC. And, all the best to them, and congratulations on the 50th anniversary, Kearney, New Jersey, and should be an excellent day there, it sounds like. Although, be warned, if anybody's listening, Rev's a cheapskate. He's not going to buy any rounds. So, somebody force him. But Karlsky Donsky on Twitter, a.k.a. Craig, he's getting in touch. Listening to good old BTW Celtics show on Spreaker. Still don't know why he's ripping Rev Boy New Jersey, a new one, though. Oh, I kid the Rev. I do it because I love. He's the Rev. Listen, I make audio fanfare, for him. And, I think that reflects my thoughts and feelings. So now joining us, we're going from we're going from one side of New Jersey over to another. This is our South Jersey correspondent. This is Yampy. Everybody knows him. Let's not kid ourselves. Yampy, thanks so much for joining us today, pal. How's things?
I've had better days, G, but I'm hanging in there. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. I'm so sorry, and our thoughts and prayers with your family. At this point, I appreciate you calling in, and hopefully we can, sort of take your mind off of things, for a little bit. I
appreciate it. It's nice to have a little bit of normalcy right now, so that's cool.
Good. But just real quick, I know that there's been a large outpouring from Celtic supporters on Twitter and elsewhere, and the message board right now, or the chat room is lighting up. What's that been like? It's so many people reaching out and letting you know that they're thinking of you, and what does that mean to you? Just give us a sense for your thoughts there.
Well, Graham, it means the world to me, and I can't really say it enough. There's people, literally all over the world, that we have this one commonality, that we love Celtic very much. And although we bitch and moan about things and everything, that, at the end of the day, we still really love the club. Mm-hmm. And I've had people from everywhere just saying, hope everything goes okay, and, you're in the thoughts and prayers. And the support, it's just been unbelievable. And I support teams in Philly. I have Eagles, Flyers, Phillies, and I've never had that kind of connection with any of the teams that I support locally. And it is incredibly overwhelming, and it means the world to me. I tweeted yesterday, I was talking to Father Hartman. He gave the sacrament to my dad, the sacrament of the sick, and I was wearing my 125-year Celtic top with the cross on there. And Father Hartman asked me about it. He looked at it a couple times, and then we got into this discussion about Brother Walfred and Celtic and why the club was founded and everything, and he was totally blown away by it. And you don't have that kind of mission statement, belief, cause. Just like with any other professional club. This is a club that is special in such a unique way. And the people that follow it naturally would have to have some kind of special thing about them as well. It's just it goes hand in hand that a special club would have so many special supporters. And I get choked up when I think about it, and I just like I talked with Brother Hartman. That's years ago, my dad and I got into the conversation about Celtic, and he was asking me what that's all about. And I feel like this missionary for Celtic, that I just sit there and it's like people I run into and they're like, what's this about Celtic? And I go into this whole thing about how great the club is. And I really am over the moon about the way people have been supported. It's meant a lot to me. It really has.
Well, I can't agree anymore about, a lot that you described in terms of there not being anything like that here. You and I, we're both Philadelphia sports fans, and yes, we do, and I say we as in, the collective Philadelphia sports fan neurosis, we do get that reputation of being, overly passionate. It's sometimes, exactly that, neurotic, but it's nothing like what you get from Celtic. The example that I always think back to and refer to is, when obviously Seamus was going through his tough time, and, I was working so closely with Deco from Aurora, up in Ontario, Canada. A guy that I'd never met before at that point, other than, trading messages over Twitter, and we'd speak over Skype. and I was just blown away by, how many people had gotten in touch and supported what we were trying to do for Seamus. And, I was so appreciative to Deco, and he said, listen, this is what being a Celtic supporter is about. I know that if something were to have happened to me, there'd be 20 Celtic supporters on my front lawn, for whatever I needed, at that point. And that's really what it's about. We can talk about trophies and history and, the camaraderie and the songs and everything, but, there is a commonality. It is a family. I know that term, the Celtic family is so overused and it's almost vilified at this point, but it is truly a family. And I know that I speak for everybody who's listening and certainly for myself in saying that, we are all with you. We're all praying for you and your family and we're with you.
And, again, my family really appreciates it. It's been a tough time. My dad has meant everything to our family. And, I mean, it's just, if there was ever a case of somebody that didn't deserve such a cruel fate, that's would have been my father. He gave everything that he could for people. He was one of the most generous giving people I knew, and he didn't have much of anything. He came from very poor backgrounds. He grew up in Brooklyn, and to come down here to Philly, and he used to work with the homeless, and he was very active with the church and everything. I mean, for him to find out about Celtic and to love Celtic as much as he did, it's like that was just a natural path that we both ended up encountering. And I mean, it's just, I don't know, I'm just rambling, but I really am thankful that I support such a wonderful club with such wonderful supporters. Even when we piss and moan at each other about every silly little thing, I mean, that's just a natural part of being passionate about something you love so much.
Exactly. Yeah, and you feel a connection with other like-minded people all over the world, like you said, and it's an example again of, it's almost like you don't choose Celtic chooses you. There's just people who are just naturally like that, like your dad and like yourself. And I know that your dad, I mean, he's so proud of you. I know, just by how the type of person that you are, and it's just a natural that you and your family would be Celtic supporters. That there's definitely a profile, that it fits, and that's why we all can click so well, and we're all in this together. We come to it with a feeling of togetherness and just bind right in. And I know that everybody who's heard you speak and has had an opportunity to meet you, knows exactly why that is with you. You're an extremely passionate person. You're an extremely genuine person. Who'd do anything to help anybody, and in this time of need for you, we're here for you. So our
appreciate that. I mean, we really do. I mean, I kind of like when I couldn't find the scarf I had initially given my dad. He was so proud of it. It was the Timland scarf, the 125 Glorious Years. And he wore it everywhere, and everybody asked him about it. He was so proud about it, but I couldn't find it at his house to bring to his hospital room. And I found one of the scarves that I had that was really special to me. It was given to me, I think it was from one of the Manhattan CSC guys when we had the match against Real Madrid in Philly. Mm-hmm. I had forgotten my scarf for that match, and then one of them, because they had the big flag and everything,
right,
with the Statue of Liberty on it, I think it was,
right.
And they were like, "You don't have a scarf? Hold on," and the guy just gave me the scarf right off his shoulders, and I was like, "You don't have to do that, dude." And he's like, "Don't be silly, we're all a family." And people can sit there and be cynical about it and say, "Oh, it's cliche and everything," but it's not cliche. It has truth to it. Mm-hmm. And when I brought that scarf to my dad's hospital room the other day and put it up, that was one of the last things he smiled about. Mm-hmm. And it was important to him, and it was important to me. To anybody that doesn't understand what was going on, my father passed away this morning at 1:40 this morning. And I just felt like calling because I wanted to talk a little bit about Celtic today. I really did, because he would have wanted me to have some normalcy, and that's it's what Celtic means to me. It's that important that I want to still have that kind of normalcy and feel like, there was a match today and talk about the match, but, I guess things go their own way, I suppose.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to watch the game this morning? I know, obviously there's just a ton of things going on for you. Did you have a chance to sneak away and see some of it?
Yeah, I actually did.
Good.
I had a little trouble logging in this morning, but I made it on there. The people at Celtic were very helpful getting me sorted out.
Damn it, Lawwell.
Nah, that one was totally mine. I with all the stuff going on, all this paperwork I've had to take care of for my father with his bills and all the whole 9 yards, I just lost my login information. I mean, it was like, you just I couldn't think of my login, and I wrote it down. I couldn't find the paperwork, and I must have chucked it. It was just a bad set of circumstance.
Anytime you need a login, let me know. I'll give you revs so that I don't get in trouble.
You can't mess with those ones on Google because they'll end up getting a virus on your computer.
Right.
The free webs.
No, you can't.
But the match was good. I mean, everybody played well. I thought Van Dijk was phenomenal coming up from the back. He covered both ends of the pitch real well. I think he's settling in really nice. And when he gets really settled in and can, that's an extra body up there, a big body.
Sure.
You get someone coming forward to help support the attack, and he can still get back when he needs to. I mean, even Izzy looked good, although he had the one thing where, gee, God, he did not want to use his right foot at all. And
he just wanted to get sent off, it looked like. He's like, oh, please, por favor, necesito un tarjeta roja.
When I see Izzy start running at his own goal, trying to get the ball back on his left foot, I'm like, just kick it out of bounds.
Left, right. Touchline. Bing!
But, I mean, even Izzy played well. I mean, you can't, it was just, they played a really great game. It's nice to see them at the top of the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm really hoping and praying that Forster stays with Celtic and doesn't end up with Barca at any time, because, I mean, to me, he was such a difference maker. I mean, that game could have easily been 3-4-0 against Barca if it wasn't for him.
No question about it.
How he's not the number one for England is beyond me, because if Joe Hart was in goal, that definitely would have been 3-4-0.
Well, I mean, we saw it, when they went, granted, they were going up against Bayern Munich, who I would probably put every bit the equal, if not, I don't know if I'd be willing to put Munich ahead of Barcelona just yet, but, Joe Hart went up against formidable opposition, and got absolutely smoked. Fraser Forster went up against formidable opposition, and once again, he was the Grand Morale. So, that basically says it all. And to your point, there's going to be, how much of this is nonsense in terms of the advances from Barcelona in trying to bring in Fraser Forster to replace Victor Valdez next summer? That remains to be seen. But, if he keeps these type of performances up and he keeps getting caps and call-ups for the England national team, it's not going to be long before the type of money that he's going to demand, the type of money that he would command, I guess, in offers for transfers, is going to be simply too much to ignore. I mean, already the bidding started. Some of the rumors that are out there are $10 million, which for a keeper is quite a bit of money. So, that's certainly going to be tough to be able to avoid. But I think if we've learned anything from this whole Hooper fiasco in the offseason just now, we had warning that Hooper was probably going to be gone. We did nothing really in the lead up to it, and maybe it's a reflection in the poor decisions of signing of Striker while Hooper was here. We really didn't have anybody that could step in and replace him. We had to try and buy somebody in the summer. Hopefully, I think that's going to be a focus in this January transfer window. I'm not so sure I would trust Lucas Zaluska to be our number one, going on in the future. If we're going to continue to try and build in Europe, we're going to need to try and find some sort of replacement for Forster, even if the case may be that he's gonna stay for another year or two. We don't want to get caught on our heels again.
Yeah, I'm not. If you lose a Forster, I mean, who does replace him? I mean, it's like Zaluska's a bomb scare. He is. When I see him and I'm not a big fan of his at all. But on the upside, if they did move a Forster for at least $10 million, then Mr. Law would most certainly have the money to get a Finn Bogus in at that point.
Oh, well, that's a very good point. Very good. I gotta agree with you there, Scotty. That's there's a lot of rationale there.
No excuses to not get a sniper at that point.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, we could always, I'm sure, move Bo Richter for a 6-pack right now.
A 6-pack of
Miller Lite. It wouldn't even have
I was gonna say like Natty Bo.
Yeah. Oh Christ, National Bohemian or PBR even.
Tasty.
What do you think about Bo Richter? Because I don't think he's going. I think he's like the new Mikio.
Well, listen, it's early days, and he does seem to be made of chocolate at this point. This is twice now that he's been out with, these sort of niggling ankle injuries or foot injuries, and that was really sort of the case against him. He did have 40 great minutes when he first came into the side, and ever since it's been a bit underwhelming, we'll just say.
He did 4 weeks after he tripped over his own foot.
Well, it happens.
I know Dr. J hates it when I call him the human tampon. In 1 week, and then he's out 3 weeks.
Well, look, they wear clogs, and sometimes it's difficult.
You figure his ankles would have been made of sturdier stuff at this point, but I guess not.
I think that we have a nice situation now where we have a lot of different options up there in the front. I'm still a bit hesitant in terms of Pookie. At this point, it's nice.
Pookie. I think he's, if again with a little more time, maybe he answers that question, and you don't need a real true sniper type. But right now, it's kind of an unknown entity. I mean,
Agreed.
He's out there, he's showing flashes that he can get away from people, but I mean, is he somebody you can really depend on to score Hooper-like goals in the Champions League?
Yeah.
I don't know that yet.
Yeah, that definitely remains to be seen. It's still early, and I mean, obviously, what are we going to compare him to? Bangura? Bangura maybe had 1 or 2 appearances and then just didn't even make the bench after that. Pookie, obviously Lennon has high standards in training. Otherwise, Tony Watt would not be in Belgium right now. So Pookie's showing him something in training, and that leads me to be hopeful into his future. I have faith in Lennon that he's going to reward players that are going to bust a gut in training. And if Pookie is going to be doing that in training and developing those relationships that we were referring to earlier, it's only a matter of time. I'm hopeful for that. For once in my life, I'm hopeful. And I'm not going to slag him straight off the bat. With regards to Bo Richter, unfortunately, it looks like Matthews is going to be out for quite some time, and that may open up an opportunity for Bo Richter to come in, especially with James Forrest. Unfortunately, James Forrest seems to be a bit injury-prone as of late. Coming off of the virus, I thought he looked fantastic against Barcelona, and then filling in today, he was dangerous at points. I know that he gets a lot of stick as of late, and I think a lot of it comes from his lack of endurance or durability. But I mean, who scored the goal? That got us into the Champions League. He's been so important for us, and he is a threat. From that cutting in position, he can put the ball in the back of the net. Sure, he's not a pure type of striker, and yes, I would prefer that he would stay wide to try and stretch out the fences a bit and whip the ball in, because at times the service can be fantastic, but he's going to be a very important player for us. It's unfortunate to lose Matthews, but I think that if he can get a run of games and build up his fitness and sharpen up his form, he's going to be crucial coming up against Ajax in these next 2 games. So,
who's a faster guy on the team than Forrest? I don't see anybody faster. He might be, because he's a small guy. I mean, he gets banged around, and he will take some knocks. But, I mean, kid has heart, and he's got wheels, too. Yeah. So, I mean, who's faster on there?
Yeah.
He puts defenses on the back heel, and he's really – I mean, I love Sammy to death, but he's not a speed guy.
Sammy has pace at full speed, but he doesn't have that. What Forrest has is in the first 6 yards, that burst of speed to get past somebody. Sammy doesn't have that. Sammy has, that slow build up, but once he's almost like a Rolls Royce V12 because he's so heavy, he's so big. But once he puts the sails up and he gets to full speed, with the ball at his feet, that's why he's so deadly on one of those out balls. Because at full speed, he can rip fullbacks apart. It's a bit of a different sort of type, and they need to be used in very specific ways. Sammy's not going to be able to get the ball at his feet and try and skin a player. That's what Forrest does, and that's why I would prefer him to stay out wide where he can be more dangerous.
Definitely. The only other thing I'm thinking about is like, what's the deal with Balde? Why can't he get more time?
I don't know. That was the biggest thing, from 60 minutes on that we were yelling for. It's 2-0. We have the game firmly at hand. Get Balde on. Get him some time. Get him some experience. And, the other thing that I mentioned this when we first signed him based on the reports that I had read and the footage that I've seen of him. Everybody talked about, given his size, he was going to be utilized as a target man. But everything that I've seen previous to him coming in and then since has been he's a front-to-goal striker. Every time he gets his back to goal, it seems as though he can't cope with the physicality that he's going to be coming up against in Scotland. I don't think he's a target man. I think that he's got a bit of technique, a bit of skill with the ball at his feet. We saw it today. He drew a couple of very useful fouls. But and the goals that he scored have come from open play when he has an out ball. It's almost like a right-footed Sammy. So right. It's going to be interesting to see how Lennon is going to utilize him. Do we give Sammy a break, and bring him on? And that's another good question. The other thing to keep in mind, and Etim's brought this up this morning, it was a good point. It's very difficult for these players coming from other countries, don't speak the language, coming in and trying to adapt at first. It's hard enough for players from England to come up. Think about Calvin Wilson's first year. So I'm willing to give him a bit more time. Again, the sort of barometer tends to be that Bangura, Brozek, sort of mold. You see him in one game and they're absolutely atrocious, and then you never see him again. I think we have something a bit more. It's just not what we need right at this second. That would be the aforementioned Finn Bogason.
Like a total sniper, somebody that's like he's a goal scorer, man. Total master goal poacher. Just he'll put it in from anywhere. He has a skill set. That's the kind of guy we need. It seems like we're always doing like winger this, winger that, guys who work better towards the outside. I want somebody who can go in the middle of the pitch, beat somebody with speed and skill, and score goals.
Let me ask you one more question. I'll let you run. I know you have so much on your plate. I appreciate you calling in, and hopefully we can take your mind off of things for a little bit, and and obviously our thoughts are with you. Let me ask you this, Sammy. It was brought up this week that he's still out of contract. F.A. Ambrose inked a new deal. And obviously Joe Ledley is on the last year of his deal. I don't see us re-signing him, and he's probably going to unfortunately go away on a free. And he's been such a vital player for us. But Samaras, he's soon to be on the wrong side of 30. He spent the majority of his career with us. Obviously, he's going to command huge wages at this point. He's already on big wages by all accounts. He's probably going to need big wages again. Do we push the boat out to keep Samaras at this point? It's a situation where we don't need to give up a transfer fee, so maybe we can rationalize it that way. But it's not as if Sammy is a player on the up and has 7, 8, 9 years left of his career. Your thoughts there? Do we do whatever we have to do to keep Sammy, or is this the time where we offer terms? If he doesn't want to take them, then we just send them on with our best wishes. Your thoughts?
I think Sammy's like the quintessential Celtic guy. Like when they talk about he gets it. Sammy gets it. He knows what Celtic's all about. I think that he would probably give you what they call in the States the hometown discount and not try to bleed the club on a new contract and what his wages were, weekly wages.
Yeah, I hope so.
But the club also has an obligation to offer him a fair number and not try to dime him down. Mm-hmm. And we know he will start at the bottom and slowly work his way up with a number. Here's what, if I'm looking at it from Law's eyes, I see it like this. How much faith do I have in Stokes to be the guy if Sammy's gone? And from what I see from Stokes, I like Stokes. I think he works well for your SPL needs. But is he really the guy for when you want to seriously start making a little noise in the Champions League? I don't know. Yeah. Sammy, I know, is the guy. He plays internationally for Greece. He scored some massive goals. Think of the winner he got against Spartak Moscow. You're talking over a year ago. That was on the road. He broke, 10, 11 games where they didn't win on the road in the Champions League.
Yeah.
When you think of big goals, you think of Sammy. Is he on the wrong side of 30? Well,
And I'm just being realistic with it. Obviously there's a sentimental side to it, as you point out, but the reality is he's not getting any younger.
Yeah, I get that. So I would have to talk about tailoring a deal that's friendly to both player and club and try to strike that balance. But yeah, I absolutely I think you have to get him signed because he's, otherwise he's definitely going to sign somewhere else and make a pretty penny. So be fair, get the contract out there tomorrow and say these are the wages that we think are going to be fair, and don't go cheap. You can't go cheap. You have to be fair with the guy who's been so good to the club, and he gets it. He doesn't have a problem with playing in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a problem playing against the St. Johnstons of the world. You don't have to con or convince or do anything to get him to play here. He loves playing here. He loves being one of the most recognizable faces of the team, probably the most recognizable face player-wise of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to strike a fair deal, and you can't go cheap on him. I would do it. If I'm Ball, I sign Sammy in a heartbeat. And if he gets hurt once in a while, so be it. I mean, you take the good with the bad there, but he's going to do more good things for you than bad things.
Well, I think that you hit it. You hit on it, perfectly with the especially salient point that you bring up is how much demand there's going to be for Sam Ross. Obviously, he's a bit of a cautionary tale in England from his time at Man City. Didn't quite work out, and then of course in the early sort of time at Celtic, until he had this renaissance in his career, and it's been he's just been a breath of fresh air, really, for Neil Lennon's side, especially in the referenced Champions League ties. But every time we go to Italy, every time, think back to when we went to Rennes, and especially, playing against Barcelona, all of the papers in these countries, all they ever talk about is Sam Ross and how dangerous he is, and you see the respect that they give him, because in those, we've referenced it time and again, in those leagues, you get more time on the ball, and Sammy in France and especially maybe Spain, but certainly Italy, where you have a slower build-up, he would absolutely run riot. In many situations. Yes, his finishing at times from open play isn't the best, but I mean, he's just going to stretch out, those very stingy, very deep-lying Italian defenses, and he could be so powerful for one of those sort of mid-table Italian teams. They're going to be willing to pay top dollar in order to get him in terms of wages, and it's the type of thing where that is going to drive up what Celtic is going to have to offer him. Unfortunately, unless he feels content to give us, like you said, the hometown discount of sorts. But it may be the type of situation where Celtic is going to have to come out of their sort of wage structure, that wage cap that they have, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. It's only about 12 weeks away from when I believe Sammy can negotiate with other clubs or sign a pre-contract. So.
If you want to know who your team's real weapons are, look at the way other teams talk about your players, whether they respect. Like you look at Sammy played against Barca. He couldn't go anywhere on that field without two dudes always being around him.
Yeah.
You look at the way Barca talked about Forster after the game and how much respect they have for him.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really say anything about Stokes or any of the other guys on the team.
Mm-hmm.
They know who the primary players are. If you're an opposing coach, you want to have to game plan around certain people. If you want to shut down a team like Celtic, what do I do? Who do I focus on?
Yep.
And the first names that are going to come up is Samaras. That's the first primary name that's going to come up. And they're like, if anybody's going to beat you, don't let this guy beat you.
Yeah, no question.
If Forrest beats you, that's okay. That might be bad luck. If Stokesy beats you, he might be having a good day. But Samaras, you can't let a guy like that beat you, because if he's going to go one-on-one on people and start really dictating the game, where they always say, oh, Sammy's in the mood, he's a danger, man. He's a danger. You have to account for guys like that. Those are the people that you want to keep on your squad. You don't want them to walk away if you can help it.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, pal.
That's really all I have to say on that.
Hey, Scotty, listen, we're so sorry for your loss, pal. Thank you again for calling in, and hopefully we could divert your attention for a little bit. Keep your head up. We're thinking about you and your family and praying for you. And again, I know I speak for everybody listening, and all the entire Celtic support. And saying that we're with you, pal.
Thanks, and it does, and it makes the days more bearable, I guess is the right word. And it really does. I mean, to have so many cool people that just want to say, we got your back, dude. It's okay.
Well, listen, keep your head up. You're good people, and there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of time for you. So, just please, we're just so sorry, for your loss. So, take it easy, take care of yourself, all right, and we'll catch up with you soon.
You too. Thanks, G.
All right.
Man.
Thanks, pal. That's Scott getting in touch there. Obviously, just incredibly difficult day, for him, and that's never easy. Trying to make heads or tails of what the situation is. As we heard, he lost his father this morning. I mean, that's words just can't describe how much of an impact that has, and I'm moved, again, in the response from so many Celtics supporters to him and reach out and offer their support. It's just another declaration of what makes us different and better. So we're now joined by Mike Roman from the Philadelphia Celtics Supporters Club at Fido in Center City, Philadelphia, at the corner of 15th and Locust. That's right? 15th and Locust?
15th and Locust.
Perfect. There he is. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. We wanted to check in with you guys because obviously, as we referenced earlier, it's going to be a busy week. You got Danny O'Connor. The Danny O'Connor fight this weekend, it's at the Electric Factory?
Yes, it is.
Lovely. He's going to be fighting against the 55-year-old Vivian Harris. No, I kid. He's only 35, but I was talking about it earlier. I remember watching Vivian Harris fight against Roy Jones Jr. when he was young, and Bernard Hopkins. He was certainly a fantastic fighter, and I have every confidence that Danny's going to be able to handle this, and it'll be a good win for him. But tell us a little bit about some of the festivities and some of the stuff that's going on. You have a contingent from the Fido CSC going over to the fight on it's Friday night. This coming Friday night.
Yeah, we have a group of boys are heading over to the fight this weekend. I know emails have been going around. We all want to wear our hoops, take our scarves down with us. Want to have a decent support there in the crowd for Danny.
Great.
Obviously, Celtic family, and we want to show him some support when he's here in the city.
Great stuff. Yeah, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get up there. It's a bit mental right now personally, but let's talk a little bit about, because obviously you and I watched the game that was this past Tuesday at the Meat Market CSC and Whitlow's in Arlington. There's a story behind that, but after we've had time to reflect, we've watched replays, we've seen still pictures, so on and so forth. After some reflection in the cold light of day, do you think it was a red card? Do you think that it was justified sending Scott Brown off for what happened?
I maintain my position. It wasn't a red card. I didn't think it was at the time. I don't think it was now. Obviously, I'm not the ref, but
you should be.
Not a straight red. No
you
way.
should be the ref.
Maybe a yellow, not a straight red.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm
probably biased. I walk around with green shades on.
maybe
see it as a red.
maybe just slightly, but it certainly changed the game. I mean, it's hard enough work when you have 11 versus 11 going up against Barcelona, and then we drop down. And we even remarked after the Forest shot that was, it was just an excellent save from Victor Valdez. You have to take your hat off to him, and then the miss from Charlie Mulgrew, which I thought was in. I still can't believe it didn't go in. It's the type of thing where that always comes back to bite you. You have to put chances away like that, and if you don't, it will cost you. It's unfortunate. Obviously, there's lessons that we can take aside from the Scott Brown incident. I don't think it was Lustig's best game ever wearing the Celtic strip, but nonetheless, I thought Asa Gary was decent. The microscope is on him a lot stronger than most at this moment. But another I think bright spot, and we saw a continuation of this in today's game, was James Forrest coming back. I thought that he was much more active, much more lively, and he seemed to flow into the game quite well. That's really where we're going to need him on the attacking on the final third, and it seemed as though his instincts had still been there. I thought he had all the sharpness that you'd come to expect. Didn't see a lot of the slack passing. Didn't seem to have any trouble with his first touch, and we saw a continuation of that. That's going to be especially important going forward, considering it seems like Adam Matthews is going to be out for a little bit of time. Are you confident going into these next two legs against Ajax home and away? What are your expectations in getting out of these two legs?
Well, you don't get any points for a moral victory, but obviously the way that we played against Barca at home with 10 men, only giving up one goal, did have an excellent chance, which we were unable to convert and get that point, maybe walk out with a point. I think that we definitely can take it to Ajax. We have the ability that we could win. We definitely could walk away with points away. We definitely could walk away with 3 points at home. I even think we can walk away with points against Milan at home.
Oh, definitely. I definitely think so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we're out of this at all. If Barca runs route in the group and we're able to put up 2 good games against Ajax and another good game against Milan, I think we're in decent shape. Again, I'm the eternal optimist when it comes to Celtic.
I am not.
I know, we balance out well.
Fantastic. Give us a sense for what the environment, what the scene's like there today at Fido, and you mentioned that it was too loud inside, but what's the vibe of the supporters that are in there? It's almost like we have a sort of counteracting of last season at this moment where we're struggling domestically, but we were really coming into form in Europe, which was something of an aberration for us. It seems as though yes, the results haven't gone our way thus far, but domestically we're taking care of business. What's everybody's thoughts in terms of the side at this time, and are we all confident that the new players are going to start clicking in? Personally, and let me start by asking you this: we brought in Virgil van Dijk, and up to this point, I would reference him as every bit the equal to Kelvin Wilson, and I think that we can't really say that we didn't replace Kelvin Wilson. At this moment, I would say that we have improved in that position by letting Kelvin Wilson go, obviously for the reasons that he had, and that's completely understandable and out with anything else. But bringing in Van Dijk at this point, for me, is a huge improvement, not just in terms of quality, in terms of what he can do building out of the back. I think that's an element that Kelvin Wilson never had and probably never will. But he's also young. He's much younger than Kelvin Wilson, and he has, sky's the limit. We're already talking about him as an internationalist for Netherlands, which is perennially in the top 10 international sides in the world. What are your thoughts there? Have we, his performance in relation to Kelvin Wilson, where do you stand on that?
Sure, I think I mentioned this to you in the beginning of the season that I didn't appreciate Kelvin Wilson as much as I should have until he was gone, and realized how much of a hole was in the back. With Van Dijk in there now, I do tend to agree there's a tremendous amount of potential. Obviously, we've seen lots of guys come in and had a tremendous amount of potential over a few matches and ultimately didn't work out. But can he replace Kelvin Wilson? He's done a decent job thus far, but going forward, we'll just have to see. Again, I did not realize how much of a factor Kelvin Wilson was until those first few games without him.
Yeah, definitely. And thinking back to the Karagandhi games, it's almost a shame that Van Dijk picked up that injury that he did, and it seemed like it was preseason and kept him out for a month. If he would have had that time to bed in, form the partnership with Ambrose and develop, I think that Ambrose would have been better off for it, and certainly Van Dijk would have been, and we wouldn't have likely had that calamity away in Kazakhstan, with all the potassium and everything that Kazakhstan has, all that stuff. Getting back, everybody at the club, is everybody confident going forward with the strike partnership, I guess, of Stokes and Pukki, or that we have enough firepower up top? That's my main concern at this point. I think that we've got it solved at the back. Neil Lennon, as I referenced, I'm delighted with the fact that he seems to be sticking with the same back four, which I think is absolutely crucial, especially in that relationship with the keeper. We saw a couple of situations that would probably counteract that today. If Ambrose needs to know what keeper means and adhere to it, but nonetheless, we have Sammy coming in, and obviously, he had a heroic performance against Barcelona, but he's not that prolific goal scorer that we're missing at this point. Is everybody confident, that at some point this is all going to click in, or is it still nervous about that?
Still nervous, man. In fact, that's been an ongoing conversation here that we. I think I even heard somebody mention it earlier. The poacher, the guy that 6 yards out of the box, if the ball's there, he can actually bang it into the back of the net. we don't seem to have that right now. Maybe we do, and it just hasn't developed. But that has been an ongoing conversation here. That's been a worry, that there's a lot of chances that potentially have been squandered. And going forward, if we're going to progress in Europe, obviously that needs to improve.
No question about it. Mike, thanks so much for calling in. Hopefully we can call on you again in the future. Please give my best to Jim Barton Jr., Molly, everybody at the Fido CSC. If you're in Philly, you can check them out at 15th and Locust, right there in Center City. It's absolutely phenomenal. Food is excellent, and Mike Roman right here, he knows his stuff. So seek him out and buy him a pint or a cider, fermented apples.
Appreciate it. Hey, real quick, G, just the boys here wanted me to pass on our condolences to Scott. He's obviously Celtic family, but he's also Philly family. A lot of the guys here know him personally. We just wanted to make sure, if he's still listening, that he was in our thoughts.
Definitely. Amen. Thank you so much for calling in, and we certainly echo that as well. Everybody that knows, I was referencing earlier, everybody that's met Scott once, knows, he's just one of these types of people that you can tell straight off the bat how genuine he is, and he's just so passionate about Celtic, and he'd do anything to make people laugh or to help people out, and we're with him with that. So, yeah, definitely.
Thanks, man. Catch you at the meat market, CSC.
You got it. Thanks, Mike. We'll talk to you soon. All right, that's Mike Roman from the Philly CSC. Fido. There's 2 CSCs in Philly. That's how big it is in Philly. There's 2 CSCs in Philly. There's the Plowboys, and of course the Veritable. I don't even know what Veritable means, but it sounds good. Fido, CSC, 15th and Locust, great stuff. So shout out to all of them. And now we're joined by Jerry McMahon. Jerry, we haven't spoke to you in a while. Thanks so much for calling in.
Oh, good evening, Graham. It's a very, very quick call, 5-minute call, heading out for dinner with my better half very shortly.
Lovely.
But listening to Scott's call kind of moved me. I thought I had to kind of get onto the show and just kind of, first of all, pass on my condolences. But to say, I thought the call was absolutely amazing. My heart bled for the big man. Obviously, he's suffering a big loss there, but to hear his dad was a big Celtic fan, and to hear yet again his own love for the club and what it means to him, I can almost felt humble listening to it. And what you said about the chat room is so true, and Twitter seems to be on fire. I think he probably has no idea the impact that he has over here.
No, you know what? I know for a fact he doesn't, and that's a great point. So many people get in touch with me. He's called into the show, and he's so passionate. And yes, his speech that does tend to get creative. It does for all of us. Let's not kid ourselves, but it's all in good fun. It's all in great spirit. He's just one of the most genuine guys you'd ever meet, and so many people get in touch. They feel that over the airwaves, and like Mike just mentioned, Scott's been just a stalwart, a fixture at the CSC in Philly so many times, and that just echoes the people that have met him, and hopefully hopefully it helps to know that so many people are thinking of him, and we're with him.
Absolutely, Graham. Just kind of one very, very quick point. I was obviously there midweek, and kind of disappointed in the sense of Brownie's sending off, and the fact that we almost managed to get a point, and in some respects could have got a win.
True.
And funnily enough, I don't think we played as well as we could have, kind of middle to front. I don't think we created much, and you referred to that in the show. But I always seem to come onto this show with a note of optimism, and that's what I wanted to kind of finish with, because I was saying to my mate today at the match, just think it's only a couple of years ago that Sion knocked us out, a miserable performance away from home, and it looked very, very bleak for the club at that time, and we obviously managed to get in through malpractice on the part of the club. But how far we've come, do you know what I mean, in such a short time.
So true.
To find that we're disappointed at not taking something in Milan, people felt we could have won. To find that we're
Barcelona.
Disappointed, not to beat Barcelona.
Exactly.
And for people to think that we can go home and away against Ajax and beat Milan and possibly be in with a chance in what is arguably the hardest group. the progress.
It's so true.
We lose against Mortman. That's obviously disappointing, but I don't think any supporter that supports Celtic from any part of the world should lose sight of the fact that the revival for this club in a short space of time is breathtaking.
It's so true.
And you look at Van Dijk today. I just thought the guy oozes class. Just another fantastic signing.
Yep.
Who I think hopefully will be with us for a number of years to come. So, my usual self, Graham, wanted to finish with optimism. Great
Good
show
stuff.
as always. And as I say, condolences to Yompe, and I hope he continues calling this show for a long, long time to come, because he's, for my mind, he's every bit as big a part of it as you and the Reva. So hail to all three of you. Great show as always, Graham, and all the best.
Great stuff. Cheers, Jerry.
Hail, mate. All the best. Bye now. Bye.
Great evening. Hail. Jerry on his way out to dinner with his better half. So enjoy your evening, Jerry. Thanks so much for the call. Not much I can really add to that. I think that the conclusion at this point is Van Dijk has upgraded. We've upgraded the position of center half. I think we can conclusively say that best signing of the summer, no question about it. And delighted with that. The big takeaway that I had from really both of the Barcelona ties last year, in the group stages last season, was obviously the results and how we weathered through it, and the midfield had so much of a part in it. Joe Ledley marking out Xavi, how could you ever forget that? It was just heroic. But that center half partnership of Calvin Wilson and Ambrose, at that time was just heroic. I mean, it was amazing. It was incredible. It really was. I couldn't believe it. On paper going into that game, it's like it's the best team maybe that had ever existed, and it still may be. Now they have Neymar, who's a diving, cheating prick. And that was the big concern that I had going into this game, was Van Dijk and Ambrose. It seemed as though Calvin Wilson neutralized a lot of the adventurousness, I guess, of Ambrose, and I was still a bit uneasy as to how Van Dijk would be able to cope with the passing carousel, as Fergie refers to Barcelona. But I can honestly say, I mean, he dealt with it just as well, if not better, than what Calvin Wilson did. He's so good in the tackle. These Dutch boys, they tend, Glenn Livens excluded, they tend to study, the art of different aspects of the game. And I would consider tackling, there is an art to successfully, timing tackles and, the technique and the mechanics. And he's nailed it. I mean, his timing is superb. You see it time and again. Ambrose is quite good in the tackle as well. We exited that game, I think, with our heads held high. We didn't get the result we were looking for. Scott Brown made a mess of it. I don't think it was a red card, but he made a mess of it. But I'm very optimistic going into these next two ties against Ajax. Obviously, we have Hibs coming up. That's always a fun one. But so it's good stuff. There's still concerns, but certain aspects of the team are really starting to congeal, and a lot to be hopeful for looking forward. And perhaps we can bring in Finn Bogason in January to propel our last 16 adventures. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks so much to Dr. J, Myrtle Beach Ball Deep, CSC, for getting in touch today. Jerry, obviously, fantastic call here right at the end. Mike Roman getting in touch from the Philadelphia CSC at 15th Locust in Philadelphia. And, of course, Scott, everybody knows him as Yampy, but Scott from South Jersey, great friend of the show. Thoughts and prayers going out to him and his family, and so sorry for his loss. And, we'll be thinking about him. So, we appreciate the call and hopefully made him feel a bit better. So, if you want to reach out and send him a note or, a tweet or whatever, I'd strongly encourage it. He's at Yampy, YAHMPY on Twitter. Just send him a wee note letting him know that you're thinking of him, and, we're all here for him. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up. I got to go to an engagement party and I'm late. So Taking us out as always is Shane McGowan and the Pogues, and we will talk to you next time. Top of the league. And Inverness Cali is no. Hail, hail, keep the faith. Talk to you soon.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know that was not to be on a coffin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And then Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favorite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have cried. Thousands are sailing again across the ocean, with a hand of opportunity, just tickets